Okay. All right. Cool. Yes. So I want to hear about this castle thing.
Well, the castle thing, it's funny is I was reading and I'm like, all right. So I came over when I was 4 years old, and I actually, for that time span, I have a lot of memories of Germany, just a lot. I mean, can't go into all. But I have a very fragmented recollection of the castle itself because it had like an overpass bridge, where you can kind of feel the bridge sway. And I remember that, and I remember a little bit of walking around the stone castle. So I mean, then I can't tell you I remember a whole lot more about that. But immediately when you said you did a little bit of digging into Heidelberg, I was kind of curious as to whether or not you came across any of the notes on the Lutheran Church or how that came to be, or
no, I was just specifically looking at the castle.
Castles are cool though, they kind of stand out.
Just a little bit.
Well, Heidelberg, the thing about Heidelberg that to me makes it really significant is that's where the Lutheran Church was conceived, and I'm not sure if you're aware of how it became conceived, but
I think it was just due to some disagreements with the Catholic Church.
That's exactly how it came to be.
Yeah, I remember.
Do you know who this individual
history.
was? Who was the individual that took issue? It's historically epic because it ties around to somebody who's epic to
I know who you're talking about. I know his name is probably Luther. But I don't want to say Martin Luther because I don't want to...
It's exactly who it was.
Oh, okay.
So the name has a lot of significance to it, obviously. And the reason Martin Luther took odds with the church was the collapse of the Roman Empire. Whenever pretty much all the European civilization got thrown into the dark age, the civilization collapsed.
Yeah.
What happens whenever we lose our media? What happens when we lose our sciences or our arts, when we don't know how to maintain the aqueducts? And I mean, literally, all that came to ruins. As macho as that was, it all came to ruins. So people were like living impoverished in technology that they didn't know how to work,
Yeah.
And in that time, since everybody is so impoverished, I'm sure you've seen all the night movies and all that stuff.
The night movies?
Knights in armor.
Oh, medieval times.
Medieval times,
Okay.
the Dark Ages.
I just want to make sure we're in the right time period.
Yeah, that whole time period, that's exactly the time period. During that time period, people were so desperate. There were famine, there was plague, and the only thing people knew to do was to look to the church. They thought all was lost, like we're done. And what gets overlooked is there were actually Europeans that were literally like kidnapped and sold into slavery by a more flourishing African society, ironically enough, And during that time, since everybody was so impoverished, Martin Luther said, hey, I'm going to go to Mecca, I'm going to go to the Vatican.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to try to have a bond and see what wisdom, what guidance that they'll give us. And when you're poor wearing rags and everybody's starving eating sticks, you go to this place and everybody's just living it, they're sitting literally on golden thrones, and obviously they're loaded. You've seen like wealth that you didn't even know existed when you think you're on this mission for like impoverished society. So he was so disgusted by that he took issue with them, and of course, they didn't want to hear him taking issue with that. So as he goes back, he is enraged, and he starts running his mouth. And him running his mouth actually gets back to the Vatican. Vatican says, well, what you forget is that, yes, we are the money pit. We are also the one with the army because we have the money pit. So what Martin Luther started doing, and this ties historically, is he started the first ever documented war of print. He started printing these leaflets, spreading them everywhere, of just like how deceitful those guys are, how it's a lie. And as that got back to the Vatican, they excommunicated them. Not only they excommunicated them, eventually they said, well, we're going to ride out after you. So they decided to march a little army out, and they started heading for Germany, and they realized that the further and further and further they got, the less everybody was happy to see them like they were boys, Yeah. So, and as the closer they got to the Black Forest, they realized that they're on the other side of the tracks. Like, the majority consensus is not that, we are who we think we are at home.
Yeah.
And that's how he got excommunicated and eventually started the Lutheran Church, and they did want his head on the stake. And so, I mean, it was literally the underdog fight. It was a David and Goliath. It was a brick war. It was the have-nots versus the haves, you know. I mean, it was a major divide. And that's what Heidelberg is. That's what it is to me, you know. So the castle is cool, but whenever I think about what it means and where I'm from, that's the substance. And I was born in a Lutheran church, you know. That's it. So yeah, it means a lot to me. And you know, like I think a lot of the same. You know, when it came to like King Jr. and like what he meant to his movement, you know, people, Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
he became king.
A heritage. Yeah. Well, I mean,
that part of his life I don't know. But
no, I'm talking about the Martin Luther King Jr. that we're familiar with. His namesake.
What? Oh, okay.
The struggle, just the concept of the struggle.
We're talking about the guy who
Martin
created
Luther?
Lutheranism.
Yes,
Right?
Martin
And he
Luther.
became king.
No,
We're talking about somebody
two
else.
people. Martin Luther King.
Oh, okay.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Civil rights movement. He was named after Martin Luther.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, the concept of the struggle and the fight and standing up for your people against the bigger power, you know, and then the whole concept of righteousness is how Martin Luther King Jr. was. That's why he's Martin Luther. It's a relation. It wasn't a random name. Fought a similar struggle in a different time.
It's interesting to see the ties that bind.
But conceptually and morally, it's the same struggle for a different era. You know, I mean, it's a similar concept of, you know, I mean, just oppressed versus not. You know, I mean, just wanting like an overall better, like just righteousness. You know, I mean, that's it. It's a big deal. I think it is.
No, I mean, I can definitely see why the guy would be his namesake because, you know, as you said, it was a David going up against Goliath, you know, the establishment essentially.
And not only that, but it's the mentality and how the war was fought. You know, I mean, there was no violence on that end. I mean, it was a path of righteousness and a path of true words. You know, against somebody who was about to try to come beat you down with an army, right? So
you're proud to be German.
I mean,
Lutheran?
Well, you know, again, with that said, I mean, I got to say that I've grown to not really be a religious person, but I consider myself to be very spiritual. So, I mean, anything of that magnitude, though, for like whatever group of people, you know, I mean, if you're Hindu, if you're Muslim, whatever it is, you know, I mean, if that's what it means to you, I mean, I've got a lot of respect for that, you know, I mean, whatever the group is, you know, so I think it's cool.
Well, you definitely know your history. Yes, your average
well,
American.
I mean, and that's a lot more specific to my interest, right? So, I mean, obviously, so I mean, I know a little bit more about it, but yeah, I mean, I just like that path of thought.
No, that's definitely more than I expected. I had like a
for an
history
opening
lesson.
segment. Not a bad opening segment.
No, it started with education. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I was kind of reading over your notes here. Let's see. Castle's good.
Yeah, how tall are you?
I gotta get to that one. I'm 6'5".
Wow.
Yep. 6'5". You know, I mean, it's cool sometimes. I get to be like, everybody knows where I'm at in the club. I can usually find people easier in the club. But what they don't understand is when you're noise ceiling, like hubbling penguins all at the same height. When your noise ceiling is like down low, people are like, why do you bend over when you talk to me? Because there's like a wall here, and all I hear up here is boom, boom, boom. So I get down to here, I probably can't hear your voices. So it is like, it is the most awkward thing for me to try to have a conversation in the club, which is funny because I spend so much time in clubs. But yeah, I mean, it has its ups and downs. It's cool being the tall guy sometimes, but then you realize that there's not as many of the shoes in your size. Good luck finding jeans in your size, you know? And so, yeah. I've got a brother that's actually just like within half an inch of me. He's 7 years younger than me.
Oh.
Yeah, he stopped growing, so I will remain the tallest of the two. So, I mean, that's good. Big brother's got that one, but yeah, little brother's tall also.
7 years. I have a sister who's like 4 years younger.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Does the sister like electronic music also, or is that just kind of your thing?
No.
Where's the divide in that? I mean, it's just
Polar
never got-
opposites. Polar opposites.
Oh.
Growing up, I listened to a lot of popular music, but I also listened to a lot of, rock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dibbled and dabbled in different things. She was pretty much like gangsta rap and
Well, I had that phase too, but like I said, I was raised in a different area, right? So, especially before the internet. The internet was a game changer for me because before that's all I listened to was popular music. Being raised in the hood, most popular music, especially in the early 90s, was gangsta rap. So, it was a little mix of that and alternative rock and stuff that I listened to until I really got into the internet era, which was a little bit earlier, so I'd say around 2000 or so. And what was cool about that for me is when I was little in Germany, I remember going out to spots. Oddly enough, my mom was real big into the local music scene also. So she had a lot of friends who were in the clubs, promoters, and DJs and all that stuff too.
wow, really?
Yep. So as early as they could just figure to take me everywhere, they started taking me everywhere. So at that point in time, when I was just literally a baby still, I used to go to music spots, and I guess I didn't really know what all it meant except for the fact that I liked it, like everybody's jamming, everybody's happy, and of course, not a whole lot of children around, so I got a lot of attention, right?
Of course.
So that was cool. But interestingly enough, it was some of the goofy commercial, whether it's Alice DJ or Eiffel 65 or whatever it is that kind of hit the airwaves and kind of made it into the mainstream of a radio, it just was a trigger for me, right? It's wow, this is stuff that I haven't heard. And it's because I did hear electronic beats, techno, and a lot of stuff like that on top of Top 40 or whatever, But it was just flip the switch. So whenever I finally got dial-up internet, around 2000 or so, maybe a little earlier than that, I started tracking down electronic music, and the help that I had made a friend who was into electronic music and could tell me a lot more about it than I knew because he was in the local scene, and he was DJing, he was doing rooftop parties and Rice University and stuff like that. And wow, this is cool. I didn't know this thing existed because they wasn't really at all a part of American society, right?
Yes.
You got to kind of find stuff on the internet. You track down what you like. So at that point in time, I did all the disease LimeWire or whatever downloading I could or whatever. Everywhere Beatport wasn't a thing, I wasn't going to hop on iTunes and be able to buy any dance music. I wasn't going to go to a CD store and have them know what I was talking about. So I did the whole, you living at home with mom and dad, you leave it on overnight, so, and then, because nobody's going to call, right? It's cool. You get some songs by the morning time, right? So I did that and kind of started racking up electronic music again, and then, from there just really got locked into trance. Primarily, it's, for me, what's funny about most people in trance, because you ask about that too, is most people are big macho uplifting, which I like that too, the 138, the big rah-rah stuff, but I'm not a fan of a third of the set being breakdowns. For the most part, I like to mix it up in regards to my trance sound. So, I think that an epic uplifting, big breakdown, I think that in a real set, you should save maybe 2 or 3 of those, I think that it shouldn't be the style in a set. You can be uplifting to the 138, but not constant breakdowns, and I saw Menno de Jong do a Who's Afraid of 138 set, stereo live, and me, if I'm going to play 138, 140, I do punishing beats, kind of like Jordan Suckley stuff, just bang, bang, Ben Nicky, if we're going to go there, we're going to go there, right? It's going to be dirty. So that's kind of my mix. Usually if I'm going to hit it that hard, I'm just going to play that hard, but I don't have a lot of opportunities to do that because of what we play, most of the time I'm playing an opening act. Every now and then I get to headline.
You gotta tame it down as an opener.
But the cool thing about that is, though, my real sound for the sounds I like, I have a spectrum of sounds that I think identify where I am with I'd say trance, but I say just music in general because I like darker, bass-driven, progressive beats. So to me, I can't just bottle it and tell you what my favorite type of trance is. It's what my favorite range of sounds are. And my favorite range of sounds, because to me they're completely there's total continuity to them, you know? My favorite range of sounds are like a deep house progressive sound, not like tech house, but more of a progressive house version of deep house, right? That goes into progressive house. And you know, when I say progressive house, definitely not big room. I mean, I'm talking J-Tech, Sound Prank, Michael Cassette, kind of progressive house, getting into the Jerome Isma-A brand of progressive house that has a techno vibe to it because he is from Berlin, you know, I mean, it's that flavor. Getting into the progressive trance sound of like Elon Bluestone, and so that 128, 132 range, I mean, that's kind of like my range of sounds that I like to play, which is good for if I play an opener for whatever type of opener. I can play the deep sound I like, I can play the progressive house sound I like, and then into the progressive trance. And you kind of cap it off with a little uplifting, you know? So, I mean, to me, that's a spectrum of sound. So if I were to play an open to close set, I could easily play just like total continuity from one end to the other. Almost like it's hard to tell where the genres change, you know? I mean, that'd just be a ride. And that's my range of sounds that I like for the most part. I mean, I like drum and bass and techno and some other things too, but really that's my money right there. I mean, it's just like I'm always within there, so it's hard to really give you an answer of a favorite sound I had beyond that. So I mean, to me, what I like about progressive trance is that like it can still be a peak hour sound, but it has a lot of those progressive house musical characteristics to it, you know, and a lot of the sounds that I like whenever I play to get the dance floor moving are like that when Gareth Emery really made progressive trance, the My Own Chain 54, Elon Bluestone. I mean, those are my sounds. They're like punchy bass, you know, kind of going. There's still a cool breakdown to them, good vocal overlays, that kind of stuff. So with that said, there's kind of a lot of that going on right now. The funny thing is that for where the market's at right now, though, a lot of what I think is progressive trance or trance gets labeled as progressive house, like on Beatport or whatever, because that's what it makes more sense to label that if you want to sell a few more copies, right? Which is funny, and the funny thing about that is these divides are so weird because most of what's in progressive house isn't progressive house in the categories, right? On Beatport, it's like mostly big room, right? Mostly big room.
Just relabel it, shit.
It is, you know, but unfortunately we can't do that. And I'll tell you what, one of the funniest things is, I know you're familiar with Moonbeam. Undeniably progressive house. If you go look at like all their last releases within the year, like even the just like straight up like About You, like that's just progressive house, they've released them as trance. And the funny thing about that is it is not trance, but the trance crowd affiliates with it, right? And they feel for them it's actually an easier outlet for people that like their sound to find their music than if they put it in the genre that it really is.
That wily Beatport.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, the thing is, a commercial standard is kind of rocking the market, and I mean, just like so many other things, you know, it's things are being sold that aren't what they are. You know?
Well, what I do to remedy that is, you know, I admittedly do, you know, go for a bigger label like Future State of Egypt and Bobbin and Jubies and stuff like that. But I also go digging because, you know, we don't have record stores anymore.
Oh, yeah.
We have, like, basically
this
the
is
internet.
a great segue. Go on.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, so I go to different groups and look at people. I go to SoundCloud, I go to the tags, and or I go to YouTube, you know, and it leads me to different, like, tiny labels and stuff where, you know, the label may or may not matter. It's there for sale. So,
all right.
You know, the modern day version of digging, because a lot of people
Train
go
spot
straight
out.
to top 40. You know.
You know what? That's awesome that you say that because I have a huge disconnect with where the industry is at right now. I respect the fact that the industry's gotten to a point where basically, if you want to be a headliner, it's really about your productions. However, I will say that I've seen a lot of producers whose music I like a lot. They're massively horrible DJs. And the ignorance within, I think the general populace of the industry right now doesn't really matter. I don't think they catch it, you know? I mean, so the actual art of what it means to be a DJ is kind of being swept aside, but to me, that it's still going to be that, you know? I mean, every DJ in this city, they have signature characteristics in their mixing that I hear. I'm like, that's Tommy mixing, or that's Wes mixing, or that's Matthew mixing. I can hear just a lot in their mixing styles that a lot of people don't pick up on. So, I mean, I'm still that romantic that believes in the art of the DJ, and that's why I do it. And I think that the most significant thing is to be a train spotter. I think that, because I've seen a lot of producers that have like 5 really spectacular songs, so if they drop those 5 songs in their mix that night, they hit on those 5, right? But I can't see how many I've listened to that the rest of the songs they play don't sound like their productions, or the rest of the set didn't sound like the way I expected it to sound, So, I mean, to me, really, a DJ set is all about track selection and execution, and train spotting is a big deal because, I mean, to me, that's... For instance, if I play a headlining set, I mean, I'm going to try to play mostly new music, some of which will be, new hits so people will know them, but I will try to find my own hits too, I'm always going to play a few tracks I've always heard of before. I know that, even the avid fans. And the reason I know that is because of how I find music. And I've had a really obsessive way of tracking down music since probably about 2003 or 2004. And that's...
To share your secrets?
I will share my secret because it's a lot of work and most people flat out won't commit to that type of work, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I mean, going back then, there's radio shows like A State of Trance or whatever that, I would catalog radio shows. I would find DJs that I think that we're on the same wavelength. These are guys that like sounds that I like, and after hundreds of hours of listening, I started the process then, and I've taken it to now to where I listen to about 45 podcasts or so. And the reason I do that is because, and because all of those podcasts have a place. As long as I've been doing this, and it's an evolving standard. Some people, some of these DJs, as I no longer identify with the taste, will drop off the list. But I'm not quick to do that because a lot of these guys will kind of stray from the sound that I like, and they'll do it for a couple months or even a year and kind of come back, right? So, and I've done this long enough to where I see this pattern, so I don't give up on anybody quickly. I might fast forward through a lot of the podcasts for a little while, but eventually, like, perfect example. I completely understand why a lot of people would have completely dropped off when you hear Emery, right? The dude's back. He's very progressive trance again. He is very progressive trance. And when it comes to progressive trance, I think he's got about as much going on as anybody does whenever it comes to brilliant music, I stack about 45 podcasts, and as I've done this, I've never missed an episode of any other shows I'll follow.
Wow.
Because I've come to realize that there are guys that are as, really, it's very obsessive. I mean, I never miss anything. I listen to everything probably within 2 to 3 days of it coming out.
You could never be obsessive about trance.
Well, but keep in mind, this is progressive trance, progressive house, and there's actually some drum and bass in there. I'll mix it up, a couple of techno sets in there. I mean, I do like to listen to what all is out there, and because I do like bits and pieces of a lot of things, right? It makes it versatile, and it's really just trying to track down music. But like you said, it's like being a train spotter. It's trying to find those tracks. I'll give you a really obscure example that most people overlook. Store and Ford out of Germany.
Who?
Exactly.
Store and
Store, S-T-O-R-E, and Forward.
Store and Ford, like store as in La Tienda store.
Yeah, like a store. Like you go to the store. And Ford.
Okay.
And see, there you go. The answer, you say what? Most people don't know, but I think they're brilliant. To me, I mean, actually, they've gone a little bit commercial in the last few, but for years I've considered them reference material. And the reason guys like Store and Ford are important is because I don't care if nobody else has heard of it. What I can tell you is I can tell you that if I did not follow that podcast, there'd probably be about 15 to 20 songs that I'd totally be without. I would have never heard of them. Why? Because none of the other podcasts I listened to would have played that particular song. And I've eventually come to the realization that within who I consider to be reference podcast material, there is a real chance that if I don't listen to this particular episode of that Store and Ford podcast, I will never hear that song. Right?
Okay, now I see the obsession part coming in. But it's good. It's not bad as long as you're going to work.
I'm an obsessive track hoarder. Yeah, well, I listen during work. I listen during work. I listen in the car. It's just nonstop. So basically,
that'd be my dream.
I used to
listen to music at work. Anymore.
Oh yeah, well, it's definitely something that I gotta have. And so what I do is I catalog this stuff. And the reason I cannot listen to live, I don't listen to Spotify. I can't do that. I won't do that because the reality is, I will miss parts of things. you're right. If I get busy doing something, I might miss 15 or 20 minutes. What happens if that song came on? During that, I can't do it.
You gotta catch it all, huh?
I gotta catch it all. I gotta be able to pause. I gotta be able to rewind and do all that stuff, because at that same point in time, nowadays, I used to write it down, but now I screenshot everything because I know that 47 minutes into this recent podcast. And so basically what I end up with is this list of like minute markers and track names, and I used to...
Do you have a Google Calendar of this?
Huh?
Do you have a Google Calendar of your shows? Your podcast? Do you have a Google Calendar for your podcast?
I don't. And I am somewhat selective with how much my book, but like I said, I mean, so really what it equates to is the reality of, some of these podcasts are bi-weekly, some of them are monthly, so really what it means is I can guarantee you that I'll listen to about a minimum of 35 or 40 hours of new music every week. And I can't, and nothing falls between the cracks within those. I mean, but I'm always paying attention to like who works in or out of that rotation, right? Because I only do have so much time. So any of these DJs whose shows have made it to my list, they've earned my trust, And that's what I think it means to have track selection. It is impossible to dig up. Well, I say impossible. I watch a lot of DJs that we all know pretty much cram the night before a show or the night of a show, and you can't do that because, I mean, the thing is, to me, music releases on Beatport still work the same way for the most part that they used to whenever it was CDs, and that's a Tuesday release day. That's why the majority of tracks that are going to hit the market, that some tracks are released on a Friday, some get released on a Monday, but really the day that you can bank on the majority coming out is going to be on a Tuesday, because the market still follows that old "we're stocking the shelves" model.
You're a
right?
track hunter too.
Obsessively, right? So so it takes me hours usually just to take my list and to track down all the songs. It's convenient when you're on Q files because they have the minute markers with them, but sometimes it's just track lists. I got to open up YouTube and copy and paste so I know it's the right one. So really once a month I buy music, and when I do, that's anywhere for me tracking that down. For me, browsing through SoundCloud for like the artists that do have like free downloads, they aren't going to be released. You can't buy them. I mean, it's a bootleg, it's a mashup or something like that, or it's just a one-off production that's just not getting released or given away for free. So yeah, it's a combination of places that I go. So usually when I buy music, it's somewhere between a 6 and 8 hour thing, and I don't always get it done in one night. I mean, usually I dig in on one night and I at least get all my tracks. Like I get the list going on my Word file, right?
6 to 8 hours.
Yeah, every time.
Over the course of a day, or in the evening?
Like the whole process, the uninterrupted process of I've got my songs for the month. I've got all my minute markers, and I'm going to the names, and I found the names.
We'll just leave that there.
That's fine. And then
turn it around.
In the buying process, seeing what's out, and then realizing that maybe a third of the songs I really want are going to be released for another 2 to 3 weeks. But that is life. Yeah, I buy all my music. I mean, if it can be purchased, I buy it, and I've always done that. And I mean, a lot of people have mixed philosophies on that, but we all know that trance isn't exactly like the easiest way to earn a living for people that are passionate about it. So at a minimum, I think that I'm glad to make those contributions for good fidelity copies of music. I love to support the industry when I like.
And that's the way I feel about this. This is my way of supporting or attending a show, because it means so much to me. It's hard to explain to people.
You just want quality and on something that you like, So
because it's that good. Like I want to share it.
It is that good, and I'm that particular about the tracks that earn their way into my database. And so, I mean, overall, the reality is, if you look at all the other DJs in the city that typically play main stage, right? Mm-hmm. I probably promote myself and my SoundCloud or my mixtape less than anyone else. Everything about the reputation that I feel I've built with this industry is people knowing that I am a music snob, but that's on my own. It's not to impress anybody or because I give two shits about anyone thinks. It's just an obsessive thing that I do, and what the results of that when I play it out, the general consensus in the community is like, man, those are just like good tracks, And that's how I actually got to start playing. I watch all these kids now that they don't know how to start playing, and what they do is they'll just go to shows and just bug the hell out of people, let them play, or they'll keep showing up to a bunch of shows until they start playing. Mine was a little different, I mean, I show up to the shows just because I love to show up to the shows, but, I guess I had like a little disconnect with, the harassing and the business end of things, but what I started doing is if you go look at like my Mixcloud, you realize at one point in time I used to drop like a mix a month. I just sit there and rip it, but under that model. And I mean, I did that so much, and I gathered so much support that after a while, that even before like SoundCloud, it would be like downloads are achievements to me. Plays are not achievements to me, right? If you're like, oh, 500 plays, well, that's great. I've seen you repost this mix 50 times.
Yeah.
You know, to me, what was important is like if I did a send space link or like a mega upload link, and I'd pick 100 downloads, which is organic as can be, people wanting that set.
It's something you can measure.
But you know, and it's a keeper though, you know. So I mean, I would hit at that point in time, 100 downloads in a week was a real big deal for me, you know. And in any way, so I just kept that up, and that's what really kind of like fed like they're liking this, you know. So and just ripping off mixes. So I mean, eventually, when enough people jam your stuff and everybody knows that, like, well, all the DJs in town, I know that like a lot of people are jamming this dude's mixes all the time, right? Eventually, I kind of started getting asked, and then, you know, which was a really big deal to me because I am mega shy too. I'm like, oh my god, I gotta go in front of people and be so nervous, and I was a nervous wreck. I'm like the biggest chicken when it
You're
comes.
shy. You're very vibrant.
I am the biggest chicken when it comes to like stand out in front of a bunch of people and like do something, you know, be worse. So it was a major like coming out of my shell for me to learn to go up there and like confidently play, and you know, so. Yeah, I mean, it's been extremely gratifying and rewarding for me